Welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, Rob Dube. And Rob, this is your second time on the Profit by Design podcast. You were with us on episode 214, which was quite some time back, and we talked about meditation. And today we have a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is the 10 disciplines and the theme of we're able as entrepreneurs to be driven and have peace. So as we go into the interview, I want to do a formal introduction of Rob, and then I'm actually going to turn this over to Rob because he has offered to interview me today. And one of my learnings in recent weeks is to accept help wherever it is offered. So I graciously accepted that offer. So with no further ado, I want to share that Rob Dube is the co-founder of Image One. He's the visionary and CEO of the 10 Disciplines for Managing and Maximizing Your Energy, and the co-founder and podcast host of Entrepreneurial Leap. He is also the author of Do Nothing, host of the Do Nothing Retreat, and host of the Leading with Genuine Care podcast. Through his work, Rob challenges business leaders and entrepreneurs to look inward with mindfulness and meditation by sharing his own mindful leadership journey. So, Rob, welcome, and I'm going to turn this over to you.
Well, first of all, Dr. Sabrina, welcome to the Tap the Potential podcast. I'm so grateful that you've joined me today.
Thank you, Rob. Wonderful to be here.
So just if I could start with context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I received a note from one of your team members recently about a very challenging time that you're going through in your life.
Yes.
And as I looked ahead in my calendar and I saw that we'd be speaking, I had a sadness actually that came over me in the sense that I knew that you were going through something challenging. And I thought, wow, she's going to actually interview me. She really doesn't have to do that.
Oh.
We could do it another time. It's okay. And then from what I know of you, it didn't also surprise me either. And as we got closer to the date, something came over me and I started wondering, I wonder if Sabrina would allow for me the honor to interview her, as this is your first day back.
Yes.
Which you shared with me and your team member shared with me that this would be your first day back. So I asked you if that would be something you would be open to, and you said you would be. Mm-hmm. And you also shared with me that you were open to sharing some of your experiences, which I think would be a beautiful thing for your audience to hear. So I'm just so honored and grateful that we could do this together on this particular day.
Thank you, Rob. I know I'm in good hands with you as we do this.
So let's just start with the hard part. Mm-hmm. What have you been going through and how are you doing?
So what I've been going through is my husband, Ned, love of my life, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly on June 18th. So we're about 6 weeks in this. Yesterday was his birthday. And what I've been going through, there are no words to describe it. It's gut-wrenching. One of the thoughts that I had, Rob, around the time, it was about 2 weeks ago when I started just kind of peeking at my work calendar and looking at what's coming up, and I saw you were going to interview me and we were going to talk about your book, Shine, which is an incredible book that you wrote with Gino Wickman, is I don't want to do this. I have spent 52 years putting the little pieces of my teacup back together. And oh my gosh, my little teacup is exploded. And I am going to spend years healing from what has happened.
Mm.
So when I say I don't want to do this, I'm not talking about the interview and meeting with you. It was my awareness, because Shine is all about the inner journey and the work that we have to do on ourselves. And it was my awareness that something that is completely out of my control has happened, and it's going to impact me and my family members and our friends for the rest of my life. And I have to go through it. There's no other option. So, it has been a very intense 6 weeks. I was supposed to be on my 4-week vacation. He passed 2 weeks before I was going to go out. So those 2 weeks prior to my 4-week vacation were, full of things that I wanted to move forward. All of the plans we entrepreneurs make of, I'm going to get this done and that done. And then I'm going to relax. And then I'm going to come back strong, because I'm going to spend my 4-week vacation just doing the fun things that we had planned. And I'm gonna not think about work, and I'm gonna have these epiphanies. Who knows what they'll be? And I'll come back, ready to go. And then I had to just, I mean, I- one of my family members who used to work at Tap the Potential notified my team. So while I was laying in bed at night trying to figure out how I'm going to call my team in the morning and tell them what's happened, he had already done that. And so my team reached out to me first thing in the morning and said, "We know, and we've got this." And there is no greater gift, Rob, than having a team that knows what to do. And I learned today, I'm just hearing, I'm kind of finally coming up above water, and I'm always curious. Like, everybody's been so focused on me and how am I doing. I'm always like, I want to know how you're doing. Like, let's talk about something besides me for once, because I'm really tired of being in my world right now. And so as I'm as I was asking one of my team members about her experience in that first week, she shared that one of our team members, who it does work that is not public facing at all, but it's very critical work. She said she was the rock, because my team member was just ready to go and keep things going and charge forward, because she wanted to take care of me. And the other team member said, "Breathe," and then was silent and just allowed space. And my team member said that it was exactly what we needed. And she gave me permission for us to cancel group that day, because she knew I couldn't go in and lead. And as I think about that, that is the epitome of what Shine is all about. It's taking that space and allowing ourselves to sit with whatever we're feeling. And that's what I have had to do. I have no other choice. The feelings that come up for me catch me out of the blue. And so when people say, "How are you doing?" I say, "Well, in this moment, I'm calm." But it could have been that 10 minutes ago, I was on the floor crying my eyes out. And then I had one moment where I was laughing so hard. I don't even remember what struck me as funny, but I was laughing, like deep belly laughing. And then all of a sudden, I am crying just as hard and screaming. And, so the feelings are all over the place. And that's one of my awarenesses. So even before this happened, my team and I were in our quarterly meeting, and we were talking about some key areas of the business that I still do, especially around visibility. And our team was saying, over the next year, we're taking this away. You just need to be out there speaking, and we're going to do the rest. And that's it. And so with Ned's sudden passing, all of that has been accelerated and put into motion in just maybe in the matter of a week's time, where my team just picked up and ran with it. And one of the things that I will be speaking more about is regret proofing our life. because Ned and I went on an anniversary dinner about 6 or 7 months ago. And it occurred to me that I wanted to ask him if our relationship is at a 10, what's going on? And I want to be very clear about the wording of that question. I don't think it's a good idea to ask your partner, what rating would you give our relationship right now? Because that's almost like saying, does this dress make me look fat? That's not a setup for them to be successful. So I didn't want to put any assumptions out there. I just wanted to say, if our relationship were at a 10, what would be going on? And he shared with me that we'd be spending more time together. And that really gave me pause, Rob, because he and I both work from home. We go on date nights once a week. We take trips away without the kids. And when we travel professionally, at any opportunity, we would go away together and leave the kids behind. And so it's like, and the other piece is I work a 25-hour work week. And so I thought, this is interesting. More time. How do I do this? But I didn't say any of that to him. All I did was to say, okay, tell me more about what specifically that looks like for you. And he said, and he was thoughtful a minute, and he said, I think it would be you taking Friday afternoons off so we could go play. And I said, okay, I can do that. And so I did that over these last few months. And I am so glad that I did. We had some incredible times together, nothing super profound, but just a few weeks before his passing, he and I had gone to the garden center and we were walking around on a Friday afternoon. And I just remember in that moment walking around, I'm like, this is so incredible that I am picking out plants. He's telling me to buy more plants. And it's a Friday afternoon and most people are working. This is so cool. And I talk a lot about work supports life and not the other way around. And I am anti-hustle culture. Hustle culture puts so much pressure on us as entrepreneurs to do more and be more. And there's a lot of guilting and shaming that goes on between entrepreneurs when someone says, no, I'm not doing that right now, or no, I'm not doing that, period. It's almost this question of, well, how committed are you to your goals if you're not willing to work 60, 80 hours a week and sacrifice vacation and time with your family and your health and all of the things? And I have for 18 years now run Tap the Potential on the core value of work supports life, not the other way around. And I've worked 25 hours a week most weeks and done that. So I knew it's possible. And one of the questions, I was at the EOS conference 2 years ago with you and Gino, and I attended your session. And I stood up and I asked, I don't remember exactly the question that I asked, but it was around that question of, I am very driven. How can I be driven and have peace? And that's what Shine is about, and how to use the 10 disciplines. And I very much believe in these 10 disciplines because my world was upside down and has been. And over the last 2 weeks, as I've just tried to get my footing again, I have come to realize that I had lots of practices in my life that set me up to show up at work and show up in my family as my best self. And all of them were just obliterated. And so I was journaling and I was thinking, okay, what's one thing I can do that will just help me get my feet under me again? And what came to me is my body feels so gross from the grieving and the crying and like clenching up and holding it. And so I just thought stretching and opening up is where to start. And so I put that back in place on a daily basis. And that was just the one thing. And then I thought, meditation. I was doing 30 minutes of meditation before this happened, and daily. And that had all gone. And so I thought, I wonder what'll happen if I just meditate for 30 minutes. What could that be? And it's like riding a bicycle. So when we do these disciplines on a regular basis and we think they're not working, because sometimes the changes and the impact is tiny from the day to day. And what I found for myself is that as I did a meditation session, it was like riding a bicycle. The habits, all the muscle memory was there, and I could find that peace, and the cloudiness dissipated, and I just had some clarity. And the one takeaway that I came out of that one meditation session was, I have been catastrophizing my future in this grief. Like, oh my gosh, I am 52 and I am healthy. I could live another 30 to 40 years without Ned and be alone. And this sucks so bad. And to live without that kind of love in my life, and all of those thoughts of, this is terrible, this is awful. And I had the epiphany that I don't know that I'm going to live that long. Ned didn't. He wasn't expecting to go. And all of the things that Ned and I worried about will never come to pass. So I need to quit worrying about things that I'm projecting out there in the future. And all of that is fear and ego. And you guys talk about that so beautifully in Shine, about making decisions out of love versus fear. And what I decided is, all I have to do is get through this one moment without Ned and find a way to be my best self in this one moment.
You mentioned before we got started that you usually don't talk about things that you haven't processed.
Yes.
But you said something like, these aren't the exact words, but I will talk about this. And what I'm curious about, and what came to my mind when you shared that with me, was, what changed? Why do you feel that you can open yourself up without processing this fully? And to your point, you said, I don't know that I ever will, which was really wise.
Yeah. So part of it is, I will never fully process this. I will never stop grieving. Grief is love, and I will never stop grieving. I will never be at a place where I can say I have fully processed this, and I am owning that. And I am able to be vulnerable because I am confident in myself and the people who love me. There are a lot of people who have my back, and I've seen them. They've shown themselves in my world. And in order to be vulnerable, we have to be confident in knowing ourselves. I know myself. My teacup is shattered, but I know my teacup. And I also feel so compelled to share this because until this happened, I didn't understand and fully appreciate the grief process. I'm reading a book right now, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm listening to her on Audible, but she really rags on the therapeutic community for how therapists, and I've been one of them, have just really looked at grief as a problem to be solved. And grief is not a problem to be solved. I'm in therapy right now, and I had to fill out the paperwork, all these questions. And one of the questions was, how will you know that therapy has been successful? And as I was filling out that paperwork, I was in a place of anger because I'd been dealing with healthcare.gov and calling banks and insurance, and everybody has a process, and it's long, and you're on hold and whatever. And now here I am trying to get help for myself, like carving out a little moment to get my therapy that I so desperately need. And I'm being asked all these silly questions. And my my gut response to that question was, I don't know. WTF? Ned would be alive. That's how I'll know it's successful. Like all that magical thinking, right? And I was talking about that with my therapist this week, and I said, there's therapy for grief is not about fixing a problem. This is not a problem to be fixed. It's learning about how to integrate this into my broken teacup that I'm going to put back together. My broken teacup is going to have a different shape because there's grief that will always be there. And there's no success. I'm not trying to get grief to go away. I've just got to live with it and integrate it.
Yeah. What are you learning about death and dying?
I'm not scared of it anymore. I am learning how there is so much we don't see and know. The signs that are around me of presence and a force greater than us are incredible. And we have to, we don't have to, we can choose not to. And a lot of us choose not to slow down and notice and pay attention. I am learning that I can't control things. Ned and I we're healthy people. We did all the things to be healthy. We ate healthy. He found some probiotics on the bathroom counter one day and he held them up and he said, "What's this?" And I said, I had to take those antibiotics. So now I'm taking these probiotics because I'm trying to rebuild my healthy gut microbiome. And he said, "Well, if you're taking them, I need to be taking them too." I mean, like he and I were like, we're trying to optimize health and live a long life and be strong and all of that. And I've learned all of that's out of our control. And I'm learning to find peace with this is all out of my control.
Mm-hmm. Also, do you feel that way also in business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There have been lots of things that I have worried about over the last 6 weeks and fretted over. Tap the Potential has not been one of them.
Mm.
And when I came back today and Melissa brought me up to speed on it, and she didn't even want to put the agenda in front of me because she knew it would overwhelm me. She just said, "I'm going to walk you through this." And she walked me through things, and they have had insights. They have innovated. They have found ways to solve problems that are so much better than if we just stayed the course and hunkered down and did the things that we had planned. And we, just like I have been obliterated, a bomb has been thrown inside of Tap the Potential, and we have continued to operate and run and serve, receive great feedback from clients. A lot of support has poured out from our clients. And it's not just that things have held steady, they are better because my team has stepped up into new ways and stretched and grown. And that's out of my control. I had nothing to do with that other than to just get out of the way because I had to.
Yeah. We talk about someday having what we call companies that shine. And I feel that what you're sharing with me is that. And I'm thinking about how you created this place and nurtured it over time with your culture and your values. And in such a way that when something like this happens, the company is fully prepared for it because the people are amazing. and they
Yes.
know what they got to do, and they know they can go do it.
Yes. I know that we need to do a hard stop, so I want to throw out a food for thought nugget for everyone listening. You and Gino teach about no key team member dependency. And that is such a profound lesson. And we've applied that inside and out at Tap the Potential. My biggest blind spot is that I had not applied that in my family.
Mm.
And I have spent the last 6 weeks figuring out a lot of things that Ned did around here. And just to give an example, we have 39 goats, and they have to be cared for, vaccinated, dewormed regularly. And I had no access to anything on his computer, couldn't find the information needed. And my daughters and I were sitting around the kitchen table one evening, because we knew we had to do this the next day, trying to figure out what dewormer to give, who needed vaccinated, because if we got it wrong, we could kill goats. And the biggest blind spot is in my personal life.
Mm.
In our family, we had key family member dependency. And so as I go forward, I have to apply everything I know about how to do this in business in our family, so that if I'm gone, people know what to do and how to proceed.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of wisdom there, and that for you, it's goats, for another person, it's, who's paying the bills and how do you get that done?
Oh, that's us too.
That's you
It's in
too, yeah.
all the areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's something to be thoughtful of, and it's very easy to fall into roles. Like I just naturally do things because they came easy to me. Ned naturally did things because they came easy to him. But if we don't cross train and teach each other and create access, and again, make decisions out of love, not fear. He didn't want to put his passwords in LastPass because what if there was some cyber attack and they get our financial information? Fear. Instead of saying, well, I wonder what happens to me and Sabrina needs to get to that, and how could I make life easier? And so as I go forward and do what I need to do to prepare my family, if I'm not here, I'm looking at love and how do I do this out of love and not fear?
Yeah. For whatever it's worth, there's software programs out there that are cloud-based that can help organize all this stuff. Just Google it. I don't know all their
Awesome.
names. I was thinking about, you shared that at one point you were laughing and then you were crying. And I'm curious how you've noticed the sensations in your body show up during this time, because we obviously have busy minds, like in general, but when something like this happens, I imagine it's, times 10 or more. But also our body has physical reactions to these things. What have you noticed and how have you worked through it?
I lost 5 pounds in the first week or so, 8 pounds in 6 weeks, which is not healthy because that's muscle mass that we're losing when we lose weight that rapidly. But the biggest change, besides feeling tight and clenched up, and I have had 3, maybe 4 massages now in the weeks. I kept that up. But my body was bruising. And so my legs, I have fingerprints from getting massages on my legs, and where the massage therapist dug in to release muscle tension, there are streaks that are bruises. And I researched that, and that is the effect of cortisol on our body, cortisol being released at over an extended period of time. So that to me is visible evidence of physical stress. I also looked at my Fitbit during the period of time where I learned about Ned's passing and came home and was there, and I had 100 zone minutes within a very short period of time. And that was because my heart rate was so elevated.
Wow.
And that evening I was shaking. I couldn't stop. I couldn't get warm, shock, right? Well, what I've learned is shock doesn't just stop after a day or two. It can go on and on and on. And that is not good for our bodies. So I'm being very intentional to just check in physically with myself and notice when I'm stressed, much more so than I've ever done, just because it's alarming to me to walk around with all these bruises and see
Yeah.
physical evidence of the stress on my body.
Yeah. And it just, if those listening aren't aware of how the body is so involved in everything that we do and every day, this is a great example of
Mhm.
when something big really happens, it's showing up in your testament and explaining how. But sometimes in regular everyday things that create anxiety or things don't go a certain way, our body is showing up, but usually we're able to kind of ignore it because we're not shaking.
Yeah, well, we're in our heads. We're
Yeah,
in that, "I've gotta fix it," the problem solving,
exactly.
and we're not paying attention to what is going on with me.
Exactly. And when you can settle day-to-day stuff, when you can settle and pay
Mhm,
attention and recognize what's happening, become aware,
mhm.
then you can release that to a certain degree. And it's
Yeah.
a great practice for all of us. I'm curious and I have a feeling, I don't want to assume what you're going to say,
Okay.
but for some reason I got something that I think you're going to say.
Well,
We'll see if I'm right.
we'll see if you're right.
You have so many people, you mentioned this, but I think it goes well beyond what you might even imagine. You have so many people that, you've had such an impact on,
Mm,
um, in business. And I don't know outside of business because I really know you, from business. Um, but just so many people that, you know, you've truly made huge, I mean, life-changing stuff we're talking.
mm.
And they want to support you and they don't know how.
Yeah.
How can they? What can they do?
Prayer,
Hmm. And what kinds of prayer do you need?
peace.
Okay.
Peace for myself
Mhm.
and our family, that we can walk through all the hard things that have to be decided, sorted out, and figured out as a family that often tear families apart, um, so that we can do this with grace and make choices out of love and not
Mhm.
fear, and
Mhm.
have peace in whatever comes our way that we can't control.
Mhm. Okay, so for everyone listening, we now understand how we can help Sabrina. And I'm sure you might all have a thing or two that she might not expect. I also am curious, when you're having a hard time on any particular day, who do you talk to? Where do you go? What do you do?
Ned was my person.
Right. But what do you do
I
now?
talk to him all the time, and so I do that still.
You still talk to Ned. Yeah.
I journal. I have a therapist. I have people who have reached out to me, and I'm almost, like, holding on. I've had people who've reached out and said, "Whenever you're ready or whenever you need to, I'm here to talk." And it's kinda like, really good chocolate, like, that's saving them for when, because I know they're good, and I'm saving them for when I need them most. And one of the things that I have found is that the things that I have shared with Ned, there's no one person who is going to replace that,
Of course not.
but there are qualities of Ned in others that I seek out. I had a very deep conversation with my brother about a week ago, and he gave me some words of wisdom, which I think that's almost exactly what Ned would have told me to do
Mm,
in this situation.
mm,
And so I'm finding there are qualities in others that are and when I'm reaching out, I'm sharing things that I know someone has the wisdom or the groundedness or something that's their gift that they can help me with. I'm a believer in being a gift from our gifts, and my people that I know well, people who show up from their gifts, I know what their gifts are. Like it's obvious. And just like one of your gifts is your presence, your safety that you create, and how you interview. And so when you offered to interview me, I'm like, Rob is showing up from his gifts. I'm going to accept that gift.
That's too funny. Okay, one last question for you. You said you talked to Ned. How do you feel, Ned? You know, what sensations or vibrations, and maybe there's none. So I, you know, obviously it is what it is. I'm just curious if you feel his presence, and if so, could you describe it? Is it describable?
Love is not confined to a physical body, to our physical bodies. Love is abundant, and it is all around us. One of the things that I love about Ned is how he could walk into a room and make eye contact with me, and his face would light up, my face would light up, and his smile, like the bright, shiny, but I could also see in his eyes when he was not happy or when he was upset or disturbed or something troubled him. Like his eyes were my window for knowing what was going on with him. And so the way that I feel him is through music. I feel him. He loved music, all kinds of music. I feel him through friends who share funny stories about him or ways that they've connected with him. I feel him in the breeze in the air. I feel him when it rains or when it thunders. Our spirit is not in our bodies. We think it is. It's not.
What's a song that Ned loved that we could all play?
Foo Fighters, Times Like These. I'm learning to live again.
Okay. So for all of you that heard that, Foo Fighters, Times Like These, throw that up on your Spotify or however you listen to music.
Yes.
And play that for Ned and Sabrina.
Thank you, Rob.
Sabrina,
Rob.
no, okay. I'm going to end it for you.
Okay.
Because it's so fun to just say it's somebody else's podcast. I thank you for joining me, Dr. Sabrina, on your podcast, Tap the Potential. I don't know how you usually end it, but I was really excited to end it by saying thank you for being a guest on your own podcast.
This has just been so fun.
But
and
really,
it's crazy.
Thank you for sharing and opening your heart to everybody.
Absolutely. It's crazy to me to say this is fun when we've talked about such a hard topic. And it truly is. I think it's what matters most right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
Much love to you.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.